Here, Coach Steve Magness. As you know, craziness just got released, IAAF, starting with those Olympic standards, focusing mainly on those distance standards. What do you think the impact is going to be on these much harder distance standards?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some clear repercussions. I mean, especially in the U.S., in the sense that now we've changed our trial system, essentially, because it's like you used to know, all right, if I got the standard, I finished top 3, I'm going to make it. Now we have this uncertainty on like how it's going to be. Is that, if you make the top 3 and you don't have the standard, but like you're possibly ranked in the top whatever rankings to get invited, is the U.S. going to select you? Or are they just going to say, no, we only want guys who are have the standard already? So it kind of takes away a little of that magic of it. And then I think on a global scale, what it does is it disincentivizes athletes to stay on the track side in the distance events, especially for 5K and 10K. Like if you know it's going to be super hard to run these standards, then they're going to just go off to the roads where there's more money anyways. So we're like devaluing our sport a little bit.
What do you think about also like collegiates where they can't go to these world challenge meets, or where running fast at Brian Clay now means nothing? You'd rather run slow at a Puerto Rico invite.
Yeah, that's the thing. In the U.S., it kind of really screws us over because like we don't have as many of these, world challenge type meets, these, second, third tier type meets, because our system is dependent on college meets, a couple, like Prefontaine Classic, which only a couple people get into, but then also these kind of pop-up meets.
Like Portland and Peyton.
Right, exactly, which aren't, part of this IAAF system, so you don't generally get as many points in the ranking system for this. So I think in the U.S., again, it hurts us. I mean, you look at some of the NCAA kids who inevitably qualify for world champs or Olympics, and even on the distance side, like they're penalized because they have to go through this collegiate system, but the collegiate system like supports and holds up track in America. Like if we didn't have it, we'd kind of be screwed. So we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot.
And also coming out was the Diamond League getting rid of everything over 3K. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it's a very short-sighted move. Mainly because, if it's not in your premier event, then you're saying that it doesn't have value. So now we take all these athletes who maybe want to run the 5K or 10K on the track, and as I said, like you're getting pushed to the road because there's money there and there's prestige there. Versus on the track, if you can't make big money or appearance fees by going to these diamond leagues, like what's the incentive? It's like, it's in the Olympics and world champs, but like that's, one a year or one every 4 years, that's not worth it. So I think it's a short-sighted move. And I think, it's a bunch of people who, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it's people who I don't think they've done their due diligence to understand the modern generation advance. Like they just have this idea in their head. It's like, oh, short attention spans, like let's do this. Well, you look at other sports, like football games last 3+ hours, like baseball games last 3+ hours, and baseball's not that interesting, but people still watch it because like it's engaging to a degree that there's like interest in seeing what happens. Like track, we don't need to get rid of events. We need to figure out how do we connect like our events to fans, which there's a huge fan base based on, high school kids and runners that run 5Ks and all that stuff, and we're just not taking advantage of it.
Do you think that there's going to be an apocalypse though with the standards and with these, no 5K, 10K?
Yeah, sadly, if I'm pessimistic and I look in the future, I'm thinking, well, this will be a great excuse to get rid of the 10K in the Olympics. Because they'll say like, oh, it lasts a long time. Like we don't even do it in, in our premier events. Like there's hardly any 10Ks on the track anymore. So let's just get rid of it. And I think if you do that, you lose a lot of the prestige and history that events like that have. And you're alienating a fan base when in track, like doesn't matter if you're sprints, distance, jumps, throws, like we need every fan we can get.
What would be your solution to what if you could be president of the IAAF? What would be your solution?
Yeah, I mean, That's a big, hard, loaded question. But I think like what you have to look at is first you have to do your research on like what actually attracts fans and like what turns casual fans into hardcore fans. You know, like hardcore fans are the ones who are signed up and watching what you guys do at FloTrack, right? They're diehards. What we need is we have all these casual fans, and again, high school youth athletes, people who have done track before, people who run road races. Like the potential fan base is huge, but we do a horrible job of converting that. And I think, you know, looking at things like broadcasts and how we do it is interesting, but I think, again, kind of what you guys have shown with your model is like if you make it interesting, if you cater to like people who actually care about the sport, then like people will get engaged and follow. And if you look at how we handle things now, we almost like dumb things down to the bare minimum. So we're not even like getting fans up. We're just kind of like dumbing it down so that like people are already passionate about it, kind of get annoyed by it. I mean, I think the great example is if you look at how the Tour de France is handled, like they do a great job of broadcasting that. And again, it's 3, 4, 5 hours of cycling and still large fan base follows, and the sport relative to track has like pretty good sponsorship and is relatively healthy.
Cool. Well, what was you have an athlete, a post-collegiate athlete, Bryan Barraza. What was his reaction when he saw the steeple standard? You
know, he doesn't get fazed by too much, so he's just like, okay, like, gotta try and do this now. And really, it's on my job to like figure out. Essentially, you got to figure out how the ranking system works and almost like build your schedule around that and see how we can take advantage of that. And I think that it almost hurts things a little bit because like that is what meets Bryan can get into, or any post-collegiate athlete, is highly dependent on who his agent is and like if the meet directors like him or not. It doesn't matter really his performance. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this either, but I've sat in on meetings with like meet directors or of Diamond League meets where they've like talked about excluding people, you know, who deserve performance-wise to be there. And like that's what this system and this ranking system does, is if you can get into the meets, like you can benefit. But a lot of athletes who are deserving can't get into them.
Cool. Well, hopefully we get to 2020 and it's not the end of the world. Right?
That's my hope too.
Thanks a lot.